Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Lynne Battaglia, and I'm a retired judge of the Court of Appeals of Maryland. Well, when I made that statement, it was in the context of, as a teenager, I was interested in going into politics. And so I looked around the small town that I lived in, named Silver Creek, New York, and I saw the people in politics were men. So I started thinking to myself, well, here I am, a woman. How am I ever going to become involved in politics and achieve elected office? And then I found out that they were lawyers. So I saw becoming a lawyer as a vehicle to achieve professional, not only competence, but authority.
Thank you.
I was always hopeful that I wouldn't have to set those precedents because it was 1993 when I became the first female presidentially appointed United States attorney, and it was 2001 that I became the third woman appointed to the Court of Appeals. So for me, it was a disappointment on some level that I had to be the first in 1993, which should have happened many years before that, because the first United States attorney, for the nation was appointed in the 1700s. So on that level, it was disappointing. On the other hand, I was hopeful that people not only saw that it was a woman who was being appointed to the positions that I was appointed to, but someone who was competent and capable. And I'm hopeful that those, or my appointments, will have helped break that ceiling that they call the glass ceiling for appointment processes through the federal government and the state. I think that the law has been hostile to women in employment. I think that in terms of criminal law, that we've had differentiation in terms of women and crimes against women. I think that the law has been hostile in many other arenas. We see that in civil actions and protective orders, where oftentimes judges require some type of physical rather than emotional abuse. That's not necessarily in Maryland, but we see that throughout the country. So I don't think that the law has been equitable, and its application by judges has been even with respect to women. I think the law can be used as a means of oppression, and we've seen that certainly historically, not only in the enactment of laws, and I think about Germany specifically, but I also think in the application of law, because law can be enacted to have outcome that's fair and reasonable, but its application by, say, police officers or court or whatever can be used in an inequitable manner. Well, I think I encountered more when I was a young female attorney, and I think that's probably true today, that young female attorneys experienced sexism and misogyny much more than a woman who is older and experienced. And I encountered it in terms of litigating cases against males, in terms of being in a courtroom when I was pregnant, and being told to sit down because of the view that pregnancy was a disability in terms of my being capable and competent to represent individuals. So yes, I think less so, obviously, as I attained some level of power and authority, but more so when I was new at this.
So you served as the vice chair of Attorney General Janet Reno's advisory committee. She was the country's first female attorney general.
Yes.
Was she a big inspiration for you?
Yeah, she was a woman who had come from what I might call the bayous of Florida, which is not really apt because it's really more Louisiana that you call it in terms of the bayous. But she was a self-made woman. She was exceedingly competent, exceedingly capable, spoke her mind, and I learned a lot from her about the virtues of directness. And she was very direct with the U.S. attorneys, as well as we've learned, with the president and with other cabinet members. Well, I'd like to think I was. I think, though, that I was, having come from a small town, I went to American University in Washington, and really that helped me develop my sense of feminism as well as my sense of advocacy. I certainly was involved in some of the anti-war movements in the District of Columbia, and I was proud when the president acknowledged the importance of the protests in withdrawing from Vietnam. So I think that the concept of my being a feminist evolved during college and thereafter, rather than before. There are a number of things, some of which, the first of which is, as you know, I edited a book called Finding Justice, which is a history of women lawyers in Maryland, where I was fortunate enough to be a participant with a number of other women in developing the history of women lawyers in Maryland. That's been an important legacy to me, so that people would know where women lawyers, where we stood, on whose shoulders we stood. And so that was completed, and that was important. In terms of my work as a judge, I've always been hopeful that my cases reflected good reasoning and could stand the test of time in terms of reliance. And in terms of, just on a personal note, I have a son who's a lawyer and a daughter-in-law who's a lawyer, and I'm hopeful that my modeling really served for them as an opportunity to aspire to the best and finest as a lawyer. And that's true for all of my law clerks who I helped model. So it's a varied legacy that I hope I left. I would say to them that in terms of their professional aspirations, that they should first find what is it that they love to do. Because I was really fortunate to find the law as a love, something that I really could spend my days at and enjoy those days. But I would tell them that in order to really enjoy a profession, they really do need to work at it and try to be really the best and the most capable.
One tribute I read about you said that you shattered the glass ceiling. And while that may or may not be true, because it seems like we have a lot of battles left to fight, you're
Yes.
certainly a massive step forward.